Rise to the pledge of allegiance. Thank you. May I please have a roll call, please?
Andy Freehammer,
Here.
Dickinson,
Here.
Lucian, here, Chowski, Walperly,
Here.
Dunn, Almanis, Kapadas,
Here.
and Beatrice.
Mr. Fulton.
Oh. Sorry about that. Ron, are you here?
I'm here.
And Dave Rowan
Here.
and John Pettit.
Here.
William Obert is absent.
Public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Public Meeting Act has been given to the clerk in the following manner: posted on the bulletin board of the Borough Clerk's office, emailed to the retrospect, and the Courier Post. A motion is in order to approve the minutes of the February 9th meeting. Of a motion?
I'll move.
Motion made by Mr. Dickinson,
Second.
second by Ms. Gushen. Any questions on the minutes? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. All in favor? Okay, good, thank you. Under new business, does anybody have anything they wanted to bring up before we start with the applications? No? Okay. I think what we should do first is, you want to take care of memorializing?
The designation of the,
Yeah, the R3 zone.
okay, Ms. Chairperson, I think maybe what we should do under new business, and which was, what we already discussed at the last meeting, I think when the board appointed Anthony and William as alternates, we didn't designate which one would be first alternate and second alternate. If that determination could be made tonight and voted on, I have resolutions that we could adopt tonight.
Okay, it was my desire to have Mr. Beatrice be the first alternate and Mr. Obert be the second alternate. Do I have a second on that?
I think either a roll call or,
We're roll call, Jean?
Freehammer?
Yes.
Dickinson, Lucian? Yes. Chowski, Fullerton,
yes.
Walperly,
Yes.
Dunn is out, Almanis is absent,
Yes.
Kapadas.
Yes. And just for the record for the evening, Mr. Beatrice is filling in for our mayor.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I believe, Tony, you were here last, because we have a continuated application, so you're okay. And it's not a D, no D variances, so you would be able to vote.
I think I'm so when I represent, I think I'm, everything we have on the agenda this evening, that's how it's laid.
Okay, very good.
Should we also let the record indicate that Officer Keith Knight is in the room with us?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Do we want to go through the R3 residential, Mr. Rowan?
Yes, as the board would recall, sometime a few months ago, we sent a letter, I was instructed to send a letter to council whether or not they wished us to examine the R3 zone, particularly to permit or not permit townhouses or clustered style housing. The borough forwarded a letter back to my office and said that they wished that we schedule that and put that on the agenda for the board to discuss at an open public meeting, and therefore make by resolution our recommendations to the to town council. And it appears that they're going to be either amending their ordinance or based on our recommendation, although they're not obligated to, but they wanted our input before they made an amendment to the ordinance.
Okay. So we have it on the agenda for this evening. The agenda was published. Is there anything further we need to do, Mr. Rowan, to move this forward? Other than-
Yeah, the only thing, if you want to discuss it
Right.
between yourselves and then open up to the public,
Right.
I have a question on the motion. I think it also appears in the actual R3 zone and also not in that 398-5.
The only spot that I saw in, that was the R3 zone, where it specifically said it was a permitted use.
Well, they make reference to that 398-5 or whatever.
That 398-5 is, I think, that is the R3 residential, R3 district.
Okay, but I think also in the R3, well, in the resolution 1102 or 1103, it's in there that they're permitted in the R3 zone.
They are permitted in the R3 zone. If you read the ordinance specifically states that the purpose of the R3 zone is to encourage clustered, single-family, and townhouse development types. Okay, so it's in our ordinance that they
I
are
thought it
permitted.
appeared twice. I thought it appeared in that 398-5 and also in the R3 standalone.
398-5, you're not talking about 395-8.
39, okay.
Yeah, that's the description of the R3 zone, the R3 district.
Okay. So it didn't get into the actual R3, it's in both places then, right?
There's only one place that I see it, and that is in section 395-8, which describes and sets forth the requirements or the prohibitions for an R3 district. I don't see it in R2, I don't see it in R1. I mean, do you think it's somewhere else? I haven't seen it. It's only set
No, I
forth.
didn't bring the book with me.
Okay. Well, John, can you compare with?
I think that section is the R3 district. I think that's what Dave's saying, is that the section that's referenced is the R3 standards, which
No,
town owns.
That section, I think, went to nursing homes and ancillary buildings for nursing homes.
Dick, I'll be happy to show it to you if you want to
No,
see
no,
it.
no,
Yeah,
no, no.
yeah, but no, it's listed at, in paragraph A, and it
So
specifically
we're
says.
recommending that mayor and council adopt that change to that, to the ordinance.
I think it was the board's desire, based on the application that we had last January, which was amended and finally approved, and based on the public that came and objected their objection to such development, that this board wanted to recommend to delete that from the existing ordinance. In other words, to take it out, to make it a non-permitted use, not only in the R3, but in anywhere in town.
Yeah, I don't think it's listed in any other section of the ordinance as a permitted use, only in the R3. So if the board decides this evening that they want to eliminate that as a permitted use, then the ordinance would be changed and it wouldn't be permitted anywhere in town.
Now, am I allowed to speak during this portion?
Okay.
I mean, I think council's, to speak for council, was the letter that we sent back, was the fact that we agreed with this board with the idea of eliminating the townhouses from the R3 zone. So if it's a matter of just having a simple amendment to the ordinance, I don't think a reason to rewrite the whole R3, that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, no.
So if we just amend that portion out of it, I think as long as this board wants to send that up to council, I think they'll get approved.
Right.
I believe the reason we're here tonight is because mayor and council wanted us to put it on a public agenda and have a public hearing in regards to same.
Excuse me, everything you say is true, Mayor Council, but the thought originated from the board.
Correct.
Council.
Yes.
That's correct.
I asked Mr. Rowe to write a
It's
letter.
kind of hard to say now if you don't want to do it.
Yeah,
Yes, it was.
Well,
Change our minds.
Yes.
well, does anyone have any discussion they would like to put forth before we vote upon this to send back our recommendation to the mayor and council? Okay. On this,
I've got a question. Does this planning board, is a ordinance drafted here, or is it something that's done?
No, it would be drafted by council, by the borough solicitor.
With this recommendation?
Right. Now, a lot of towns will, once that ordinance is drafted, of course, there has to be the first reading, as you understand, the second, sometimes it's not required, but they send that ordinance back to the planning board just for their review and, approval
Okay.
or comment. Yeah, it's not that they have to approve it, I mean, council approves the ordinance, or disapproves.
So you're saying before first reading, maybe send that back to the...
Yeah, I think that's,
So we can look
it
at the
would probably be
language.
appropriate,
We
yeah.
can check, we can check the language on it and
I
see
think
if that's
that's-
what we're looking, what we're looking
Yeah,
at.
that way, that way they can say, well, yes, this is what we're recommending, or say, well, wait a minute, that's, geez, that's not what, because the last time it was amended and permitted, apparently there was some confusion at that time, that it went to council, and as Dick had pointed out last January, that's not what council thought that the ordinance said, that they thought that they had said we don't want it, but somewhere it was in there.
There was a breakdown in communication.
Yeah, it was just,
Okay. Well, I think that can be agreed upon to send it.
and what I would do is just to be, since it is, these discussions have to be in an open meeting, to briefly give a reason of why you don't favor those, or now that could be based on what, you know, the public's wish was. You know, we're here because of the public. So,
Well, I think that, you know, what you said is true. We had a very large application before us. A lot of members from the public chose to speak against townhouses. There was a question of how much traffic it was going to put into the community. There was a question about how many children it was going to put into the schools. And everyone from the public really was adamant about just wanting to get rid of townhouses in our master plan altogether. We were lucky enough to have a very nice applicant that worked with us in conjunction with that wish, and they changed their application to exclude townhouses, and it is now our desire to try to be beholden to the public's wishes as well as to what we think is best for the town in having that eliminated from permitted use in our master plan. At this point in time, I'd like to open the meeting up to the public. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter and this matter only, please come forward and be heard.
Seeing no one, I make a motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
Motion made by Mr. Dickinson, seconded by Ms. Dushin. The public portion of the meeting is now closed. Have a roll call on this, please, Jim?
Playhammer,
Yes.
Almagus,
Yes.
Dickinson, Walperly,
yes.
Bushian,
Yes.
Fullerton,
Yes.
Tobias,
Yes.
and Peters.
I'm not voting on this because it's a use variance, but I just like to speak, because there are already enough votes for it to pass.
Right.
But I just wanted to take a minute out to thank the members of the committee that sat down with the applicant and our professionals to help us come to this agreement, and I think it's a better use of my opinion. I think it's, and now I see that the board agrees with my opinion that it was not the best use of the property based upon what I heard from our public.
Excuse me, was that correct, or this was considered a use?
No, it's not changing, we're just making a recommendation to amend. Yeah, yeah, to amend, yeah.
I don't want to jeopardize the board's action.
All right, thank you. I don't believe we have any other new business. Moving on to old business. Mr. Ram, would you like to read the memorialization?
Yes, we have from our February meeting, we have the memorialization of the resolution regarding Mr. and Mrs. White, 511 North Black Horse Pike, Block 41, Lot 3. As you may recall, this is a residential style house in a C-zone district. The folks came in, showed that they have been trying to sell for a number of years, and as a commercial unit, and really, it was, years ago, it was always a residential. So they asked for a use variance to be able to occupy and or sell this property as a residential.
Okay, may I please have a motion to adopt the resolution as read? Yes.
Are we doing both at the same time, or just the one?
No, just wait, we should do them individually.
Need a motion, please?
Motion.
Mr. Ockerly?
Second.
Ms. Gushin, roll call, Jim?
Playhammer,
Yes.
Almagus, Dickinson,
Yes.
Bushian,
Yes.
Walperly,
Yes.
Chastity out, Fullerton,
Abstain.
and Dunn is out, Kapoor.
I don't think we can vote on the use variance, I guess.
No, you can't vote. And neither can Anthony because he's filling in for
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
We have the applicant, Mark Burns, 1006 Orchard Avenue, Block 13, Lot 13, R1 District. Mr. Burns came in and was seeking a bulk variance front yard so he could install a new porch at that location.
Okay, is there a motion on the floor to adopt this resolution?
Move for adoption.
Mr. Dickinson,
Second.
Ms. Gushen, roll call please.
Leonhammer,
Yes.
Dickinson,
Yes.
Walperly,
Yes.
Bushian,
Yes.
Fullerton,
Abstain.
and Kapoor.
Yes.
We also had one resolution that has to be passed on tonight. It was the administrative amendment for CAK Properties LLC. Originally, this was on for, I believe, February, and it was moved, but apparently, we're okay with what he's doing there, that new facade?
Yeah, it was some minor modifications to the architectural appearance, and it was also the elimination of the landscape plan,
Landscape plan, okay.
which was actually encouraged by the two property owners next to them.
That's the wall.
The wall, yes.
Does anybody have any questions on that administrative amendment?
It was read into the record. It was read into the record. I don't think this was yet.
Did we read that one in, Mr. Rowan? Yes? Did we
Oh,
read
no,
that?
yeah, I can repeat it. This is an administrator amendment for CAK Properties LLC regarding premises at 810 East Cummins Bridge Road, Block 141, Lot 1. It's in the commercial zone. This administrative amendment administratively amends the former site plan that we approved. A formal hearing was not required because of the de minimis nature of the amendment, which essentially modifies the landscape plan and I think some exterior changes to the facade of the building.
Any questions on that? Need a motion to adopt the amendment?
No.
Mr. Dickinson,
Second.
Ms. Gushen, roll call June?
Leonhammer,
Yes.
Dickinson,
Yes.
Bushian,
Yes.
Fullerton,
Abstain.
Walperly,
Yes.
Kapoor.
I'll abstain. I was not present.
Okay, thank you.
Do you not vote on that?
Witness protection.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. The final thing we have is the application that we tabled from last month for Mr. Yaneko. We heard testimony from Mr. Yaneko, and we heard testimony from Mr. Keith Knight. And we allowed Mr. Yaneko 30 days to come into compliance before we were to vote on his application. So at this point in time, I'd like to call Mr. Knight to give his testimony of the same. Do you have any comments, Mr. Rowan?
No, I believe that all the testimony was given, and I believe it was open to the public, and we
Yes.
closed it to the
Yes, it
public.
was.
So all we need is the report of the code official, and then it's open to our discussion among the board members. I'll instruct the board after Keith gets his dissertation of what you can do, you can't do, and what the parameters are that you have to base your decision.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Knight. We'll hear from you. I just want to thank you for coming this evening, and I wanted to, I guess, solicit your testimony for what we have going on at Mr. Yaneko's house. Have you come into compliance as of yet?
No, he hasn't. Last reinspection I performed was on March the 11th, which was this past Monday, and a reinspection also on February 25th. Both of those instances were after the last board meeting.
Okay, so we are still not in compliance. Mr. Ryan, what did you want to advise?
The board, and this was a bulk variance, and where Mr. Yanenko was proposing to install a 24 by 40 foot garage, where our ordinance only permits a 16 by 24 foot. He was also, our ordinance only permits a one-car garage, where he testified that this would be a three-car garage. In order to approve bulk variances, the applicant has the burden of proof to show a hardship on which the board can grant such an ordinance. The burden of proof is several-fold, but some of the hardships that an applicant would have would be if there was a peculiarity to the lot, if it was an undersized lot, if there was a particular and undue hardship because of the size of the lot or where the lot was located, if it was exceptionally narrow. These are things that if he can prove that type of hardship, then relief can be granted. Relief can't be granted when there is an economic benefit, or just or if the request is of a personal nature. Hey, I would like to have this. The negative criteria also the applicant has to demonstrate that if a board does grant relief, that it is not a substantial detriment to the public good, and it does not substantially impair the intent of an ordinance. Okay, so that's one thing you have to consider. If you are the board is the trier of fact in whether it's a C variance or a D variance, but you have to be guided by, has an applicant sustained the burden of proof? As I indicated, hardship, peculiarity of the property, would it because of the nature of the property, would it be inequitable not to grant the relief? The other thing, does it impair the intent of your existing ordinance? So they're the things that you have to consider.
Is everyone prepared to vote? Anyone not prepared to vote?
Did you?
We're not open to public, we already opened the public already. Yes, sir.
Is the applicant going to have an opportunity to be heard anymore?
They can make a final argument. They can't introduce any more evidence,
No, I understand.
Yeah, but you can have a summation, absolutely.
You want to sum it up, Dave, sir?
Well, I guess for the record, let me put my representation on the record. David Thatcher, here on behalf of the applicant, Joseph Uneko. My understanding where we left this off at the last meeting was that it was going to be carried for a month to give Mr. Uneko an opportunity to work to clean up his property. And that's where we are this evening. I know Mr. Knight has testified that he's not in compliance. However, based on my conversations with my client, he has made some cleanup. It may not be in compliance yet with as far as what the property maintenance officer requires, but there has been some cleanup of this property. There are items, there's still items in the backyard, there's no doubt about it. And Mr. Uneko's testimony at the last hearing was that some of the materials that are in the backyard are materials that are either going to be used to construct the garage, if it's approved, and other materials are going to be things that are going to be housed in the garage. So I don't think there was ever an intent, and it was made clear by Mr. Uneko that he wasn't going to remove everything from his backyard, and everything is not removed. If it's not in compliance, as far as the property maintenance officer is concerned, perhaps what may be more appropriate is that the matter be carried another month, give Mr. Uneko the opportunity to complete that. I know that at the last meeting, when we carried it, there was discussion about if a month isn't enough, let us know, we can carry it further than that. quite frankly, I'll take blame for not having communicated with Mr. Knight before tonight's meeting about whether, what the status of it was, and perhaps if I had, I could have put in a request to carry it rather than this board entertain the application again. So if the board so wishes, I would request that Mr. Yecko be given additional time within to come into compliance with what the property maintenance officer requests. However, I want to condition that on the fact that, as he indicated in his testimony, like I said, some of these materials are things that are going to be used to construct the garage and/or be housed in the garage. So his testimony was that there was never an intent for it to be completely clean. And I think if Mr. Knight gets further, that I think, based upon the conversations I had with him, that there has been some cleanup. But as he indicated, he's not in compliance yet.
Well, I'm only one person here, Dave, but as Mr. Knight testified at our last hearing, this has been going on probably for quite a few years. It's not a matter of months, it's been quite a few years since Mr. Yecko has not been in compliance. I think 2007 was what, Mr.
2008.
2008. I absolutely, I appreciate what you're trying to say, but you have to appreciate Mr. Knight has a lot to do, and he's been, since 2008, trying to get this one resident into compliance. And I really don't think it's fair to him to have to keep going back and back and back and back. Obviously, as an attorney, if in 6 months or a year from now, he has his stuff in compliance, he can certainly come back before this board, and we would be glad to, hear his application again. And you certainly are also aware that if he wants to build a 16 by 24 garage in his yard, he does not need to come before us. He can build, whatever our ordinance says is legal to build without our approval, and he can start putting some of his stuff away. But I think to continue this again, this is my opinion, and I'll ask the rest of the members what their opinion is, but I think since 2008, Mr. Yecko has been given quite a bit of leeway as far as the abatement of going to court and things of that nature. And, Mr. Knight does have an awful lot of responsibility in this town, and I really think it's not fair to him to have to keep revisiting one residence over and over again. Mr. Yecko decides to take 6 months or 8 months or a year to do it, he can just, come back again rather than having us continue to keep perpetuating this. All we're doing is perpetuating something. From the looks of the pictures that Mr. Knight presented us with this evening, starting from 2008 and going up to current of last week, it would appear that there's quite a bit of work to do. And I personally don't think from the pictures that a month's going to do it. I think it would be more realistic that Mr. Yecko just, will vote tonight. And again, I'm one person. If he may get an approval, I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is I think it's more realistic to just vote on it this evening, and then he won't be pressured. He has to come into compliance with Mr. Knight as far as, what his job is. But as far as doing the garage, whenever he's in compliance and he thinks it's going to be a favorable, vote, he's more than welcome to come back here. I mean, we're not here to deter him, but we certainly have to move forward with it. I mean, that's just my opinion. Anybody else? Mr. Oberle? Discussion?
I agree with what
Mr. Dickinson?
Based on testimony in the past and up to and including this evening, I think that it was my opinion that we only gave Mr. Yecko another 30 days, and we continued it to this month, that any other continuance is a moot point, because it looks like there hasn't been enough progress made. So my move would be to discontinue the application.
And what I might add to the board is his non-compliance can be a factor in your decision, but your decision should be based on the board has not found a hardship's been proven
That's correct.
under the circumstances.
I'm just trying to invite you back.
And for the size of this, for the size of the proposed. So that the board would have to be clear in your minds that he hasn't sustained the burden of proof as far as a hardship. Now, the item, if not him being in violation or non-compliance can be a factor, but not a sole determining factor of an approval or a denial.
One other concern I have is if the application is denied, and one of the bases for that is non-compliance, that's going to impact Mr. Udeko's ability to come back before his board with that same type of application. He's not going to be permitted to do that.
Dave, I mean, yeah, I think if the board, they haven't voted, but it seems to me that they're not satisfied there's a hardship to build a 24 by 40-foot garage.
Well, I haven't heard that. What I've heard is.
Yeah, but not yet, but if there was compliance, and I guess if there was a future application for something a little smaller,
Right.
that they would consider that, they would still have to find the same, or Mr. Udeko would still have to satisfy the same criteria, negative criteria, and hard. You didn't get my dissertation? Have to be
Well,
good still. I didn't remember that thing.
Is the idea to withdraw the application, because this way you could apply again for the same thing, as opposed to having a substantially changed application? Is that the question, Mr. Hatcher?
If it was, I may be inclined to do that if it was my application. If you deny a 24 by 40 foot, then he can't come back and really apply for it, even if he
Right.
cleans the yard.
Yeah.
Okay, because you found there was no hardship for that size of a building. I mean, he could come back, you could vote, make a decision, and he could appeal, he could apply again for a building that's smaller.
And one of the statements that Mr. Udeko did make was that this board was inclined to grant what he proposed in his application. He was willing to accept something smaller if the board was so inclined, consistent with the type of application that was granted approximately a year ago to the property on Third Avenue. But he was willing to consider something less if the board was not happy with the size that he was proposing.
Was there a height restriction too? When you want above the restricted height on?
No, I don't think there was a height restriction, and I think there was testimony that.
Yes, there was.
There was? Okay. Oh, yes, you're right, yeah, 18 feet, 12 feet are max. And he testified that there would be no second floor to the building. Okay, because that's not permitted under our ordinance.
And the application was created about a year ago, also included variance for height.
Well, there's also, if he's asking for an extra height, there's a variance required too.
Well, that was part of their application.
Yes,
Yeah, that was.
one of several variances that we requested. That was one of several.
Are you submitting a different size? Is that the user, is the applicant asking for a different size?
Well, what I'm proposing, one second.
That's not legitimate, David. In other words, you couldn't buy a piece of ground that's small and know it, and then say, oh, I didn't have that.
Yeah, what we're proposing now, if this board is not inclined to grant him approval for a 40-foot by 24-foot garage, then he is willing to accept a 24-foot wide by 32-foot long proposed garage.
The same height?
Same height, which is consistent with what was granted approximately a year ago.
We still have to show hardships for something that size, Joe?
Yes.
And variance.
We don't even know, and Dave brought that up before, that there was, so that shows that history that these type of projects have been approved. You don't have a record of that, we don't know what, how, if that being, what his hardship was.
We do have a record, it's contained right within the resolution, which was admitted in evidence.
Yeah, but as far as the testimony, Dave, it just said they found a hardship.
We found special reasons.
Yeah, well, but this board doesn't know what the special reasons were.
This board entertained it.
Well,
heard the testimony.
yeah, I mean, they have to review, I mean, if they can remember what the special reasons were.
And there's some different members.
And there are, yeah, Nick, you weren't a member. And Dave, I'm not saying that that might not be an argument, a future argument, but, you know.
Well, I'd like to make a comment about the larger garages built in the community. You know, it's something, Mr. Knight has now been appointed our zoning officer for the borough of Runnemede. And one of the things we will be looking at is all the different ordinances and seeing what's working, what has not been working. You know, some of these garages, you know, that we're talking about, in my opinion, have been a little excessively large. Some are bigger than the homes on the properties and things like that. And I think that has to be considered when we're allowing these buildings to be built. So, you know, in this particular case, I think that, you know, the hardship, in my opinion, has not been, you know, improved. The benefit to the community, I don't see it. So, I think I know where I stand on this.
I agree, and, you know, that was going to be the second part of my testimony to Mr. Necco, is that, you know, we really don't have a hardship here, we really don't have a benefit to the rest of the community, and I'm hoping that you can accomplish what you want, you know, with building, you know, a garage that falls within our ordinance, you know, and that's what I have. Anybody
Mr.
else?
Ryan, isn't the clock ticking on this application? And we
Yeah,
have
there
to
was a
take
waiver
action?
at the last meeting. Mr. Thatcher waived
He
the
did.
automatic approval after 14
He did, it was our
Yeah.
continuance? Okay, so we have,
Yeah. Mhm.
the clock's ticking from tonight.
Yes, yes, that's true. I mean, if you weren't going to, the board was not ready to vote on it tonight, you could give them a continuance, and then we have to ask for another waiver.
Is there anyone here not ready to vote tonight? Okay. Do you have anything else, Mr. Rowan? Mr. Pettit, do you have anything else you want to add? Mr. Thatcher?
Just give me a minute with my client,
Okay,
if that's okay.
certainly.
Keith, what's Chris doing here? Chris isn't going to do the zoning?
No, just the construction official,
Oh,
and the building
Is
subcommittee.
that, he was the zoning officer too, was he?
Yeah, that was sort of an extra,
It was a double hat.
Yeah.
like the Sherlock Holmes with the friends in each.
He's got a hat that's like Sherlock Holmes, just in the back with a front.
You turn it around. Remember Andy Griffith from Mayberry?
One has
Go
pictures
before the
of
judge.
trees,
and turn it
Yeah.
around.
one has pictures of trees, the other has pictures of houses. And you aren't really called cheap cook and bottle washer.
Right.
Yeah, all the above.
It's a shame that there's several houses that look like this throughout our community. That's definitely a problem we have to work on.
Well,
Until I saw the pictures, I just thought it was like overgrown vines.
Yeah.
the magnitude of the, it's,
Keith has done a great job pushing people in the right direction. Still, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, he's been very patient.
Very patient.
well,
He's never been in front of the judge at this point.
oh yeah, he was in front of him again on Monday night, and did a plea negotiation, he didn't get a plea, but everything's now contingent on what's the next step.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, we're going to withdraw the application at this time. Hopefully, we can resolve issues with Mr. Knight, and hopefully that changes the
That's,
mood,
that's
mood and
fine.
tenor of the whole application.
That sounds great, Mr. Thatcher.
Okay?
All right. Good luck with you,
Good
Necco.
recommendation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Madam Chair, my excuse.
Yes, Mr. Knight, thank you again for your time and consideration. We are going to review your sign ordinance this evening, and we'll get back with you. And I really appreciate all your time and effort put into that as well.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, I think that's all we have under old business. We did the resolution, designating the alternates. I have a small bit of old business that is just myself here. I ran into Dane Silvestri from Interstate Commercial, and it looks like they are going to move forward with the application for the urgent care center. That seems to be going well. Also, Primo Hoagies has moved into that same complex. They are supposed to be opening on April 1st. Right down the street from that complex is...
They had an Adam Clipper magazine throughout the borough.
Yes, yes, they did. And that actually is the same owner, Dana, who used to be up in Belmar. So it's Great Dane Construction they're down here, so they're planning on opening on April 1st. And Mr. Silvestri is still trying to contact someone for the third store. So hopefully that will go well. Other old business, the parking signs. Nick, how do we make out with those?
Well, I think the borough's looking at doing some other ones on vehicles, and I think that we can put that all together. Put some sign, that's all sign package together. Once there's a design, maybe this board could look at it too, and see if it's something that's working.
This kind of ties into a little bit, what we're trying to do is just, if you look like in Haddonfield and in Barrington, there's a P, a blue P, and then underneath it, there's an arrow pointing which way to public parking. So what I had sent over to Mr. Kapados was something perhaps, on Clements Bridge Road, before the Borough Hall is designating to make a right into this parking lot, something on Black Horse Pike, making a right into this parking lot, and then some other things, northbound and southbound on the pike for the Harry Williams area and for this area. I think people may have some anxiety as to coming into a parking lot that's full of police cars and whatnot, not knowing where to park, and we really don't have much of an area in the town to park, so it was just a small thing we were going to try to do. We have the draft energy paperwork here. It's renewable energy. We would really like to get a subcommittee together for this to try to get pen to paper as far as putting something in our ordinances as to what we would like to allow and what we don't want to see in the borough as far as renewable energy, solar panels, things of that nature. Right now, anyone who would like to, we'd like to do a three-person committee on this to just kind of get together and then report back to the board and, just kind of start the ball rolling.
It's reference to some kind of solar.
Did you draft this, John, or not? I haven't seen it. Dave?
No.
State has a standard. It has a representation, solar wind equipment,
Mm-hmm.
the inherently beneficial use.
This, is that the same number right there? 39-1.
No, that's our code.
Okay.
Did you draft this?
No, this is our code right now, isn't it?
This is in our.
No, this is a sample.
This is our sample.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, the page is this.
I think
I
that's our
think
code.
they need Bob.
It's in our master plan.
Yeah.
Because it's good, because it references all the ordinances that need to be amended. I read through it, I thought it was good. The only thing I did notice was asking the construction department to set up a course submitted to the construction department, and I just wanted to make sure how we would keep track of that as something, it's a logistical thing, that he'd make them do that. That was the only thing I saw that had to do with the midterm ones, but I thought this was excellent, this draft.
Does anybody want to be on that subcommittee?
I'll serve.
Okay. Joe, Dick, anybody else? You're busy this summer, okay? It's your summertime.
It's a digger.
Yeah. Nick?
Please in the dirt.
That'll be
Well,
different.
as council, I would,
Well, yeah, this is the.
I like it, I'm gonna say that now.
All those in favor?
You know?
Tony?
No.
Okay.
Help me out if you need.
Okay.
I'll do it.
Well, that's,
Okay, you know, I think we can meet and just review this. It'd be great to see where this came from, if we could verify if this came from.
It did.
Steve,
I
it came
remember.
from Scott?
Yeah.
Steve Monk, okay. It looks like someone did some
He
research.
gave it out when he,
yep. Well, one of the three people, because of the sunshine law.
he made a presentation.
So it's the Dick, Nick, and Joe.
The public wants any properties. That's what-
No, you are.
Okay,
I'm on the sign committee.
okay. Joe and Nick.
You, Joe, and Nick, and you'll take lead on as far as
Yeah, just let us know, get together.
get some meetings together. All right, so Mr. Dickinson is going to take the lead on the subcommittee, and he'll be contacting Mr. Ockley, Mr. Capados about a future meeting. He'll report back to the board
And have everyone's phone numbers on.
on recommendations. Okay.
Did you say you need phone number?
Would you like that in that, John?
Remember?
I got
There was a communication from Officer Daly. He would like us to make sure after our meetings that we gather up all of our stuff. Apparently, after a couple of meetings, there's been some stuff left up here on the desk. He doesn't
No,
want to do
no, we
with
don't
it.
do it, that's council.
No.
We're not assigning blame here now.
We don't do it, I can guarantee you, we don't do it.
Oh, right.
We're compliant.
So can we, when the police steal the chairs, can we go down?
I wanted to, Mr. Rowan, would it be okay, do you think, I'd like to open up the good and welfare public portion of the meeting before we get into the sign, in case anyone wants to speak, I'll make them stay here. At this point in time, I'd like to open up the meeting to the public. Anyone wishing to speak on any matter at all, please come forward and be heard.
I have one thing I would like to say.
Yes, sir.
It's about Mr. Schmidt.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Schmidt is not a borough resident.
Correct.
When Mr. Schmidt comes to address the members of this board, he should be addressing the member of this board on an application and conduct his business on an application only. Right? I understand he is a member of the public, but I mean, for him to stand out there and scold the mayor because she didn't use both sides of the paper, I thought was ludicrous.
Well, I think his objection was that he didn't think his question was answered, and I believe Debbie said, how many times do you want to hear the answer?
Yeah.
I think that was a difficulty he had.
Well, I don't know that we
More
can
in the paper.
exclude anyone. We
Even
can't,
though he's not a member of the community, Dick, he's a member of the public. Members of the public can go to any meeting they want, and they can question.
We're quasi judicial.
Yeah.
We're only acting on matters of planning board
Right.
and planning board use.
And he's a member of the
We're not
member.
talking about who used one side of the paper, who didn't use.
But that's just the law. He's a member of the public. I
Got
mean,
nothing to do with the fact that he's already been in court against
Oh,
our
I know.
mayor and lost, so maybe he's carrying a little bit of
That's
aggression.
one of the things the Constitution permits. And
well, personally, I mean, I'm happy to answer any question the man has. We're a very transparent board here. We have nothing to hide. The man has a question. I mean, I would hope that it would be a pertinent question.
Well, I thought we were, you know.
Yeah, no, and Dick, I agree.
It wasn't saying to be done, I thought we were here to conduct the business of the planning board. You're not talking
this
about-
isn't the only, but he's been at several, he goes to several meetings in different townships.
And I agree, I would hope that he would keep his questions to something that was, pertinent to the
Well, it's
borough.
something, I'm sorry, it's something I just had to say.
You're entitled to your opinion, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but we'll certainly answer any questions that the man has to the best of our ability. And hopefully he'll use good judgment in the questions he brings forward. That's all we can really ask. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak this evening?
Now, goes to public portion.
Motion by Mr. Dickinson, second by Debbie. Public portion of the meeting is closed. What I'd like to do now is report on our progress of our sign ordinance. we had two meetings, we had two workshop meetings, and I thought they were very good meetings. The first meeting was myself, Mr. Dickinson, and Mr. Opperly. And we also had a meeting on the 15th with Mr. Knight and Mr. Pettit. So I thought they were very productive meetings. Mr. Knight, since then, has written out his recommendations pretty much regarding the portable signs and outdoor devices, which are pretty much what we're looking to, take a look at here. Does everyone have a copy of this?
I've seen
I just so happy today you would bring.
it. Seen it.
No, I know, you gave me.
I did have, I did get
All right, so these are things that we've talked about in the workshop meetings, and this is, obviously, Mr. Knight has to be the one to do the enforcement on these, so real quickly, the double-sided A-frame signs seem to be something that wouldn't be a problem so long as they're being taken care of and not to obstruct the sidewalk. Sign placement cannot create a particular vision obstruction. Big thing is number 2, flags and banners. I think we have a number of businesses in town that have put the flags and banners up legally or illegally. They have been putting them up, and I think we're all anxious to try to get something down on paper to regulate what they do here. Mr. Knight states that the flags, banners to be displayed only during operating hours of the business. Flags and banners shall be properly attached to pre-manufactured poles designed for that purpose and to properly secure to the ground to eliminate public safety hazards. Flags and banners shall be of a maximum size without any attachments. I also had a couple of footnotes on that. I think it might be a good idea that we limit the number of flags we allow the business to have. If we're going to allow them, I think we need to put it down that we allow X amount of signs. If your frontage is so many feet, you can have one. You have X amount of foot frontage, you can have 2. But I don't think we want to have, flags and banners, hanging all up and down the pipe. And also, I think we should have, if we're going to allow this, I think we should have one uniform size for all the flags. I mean, I don't know that we want to go with the banners, or do we just want to allow the flags that we're here to talk about amongst everyone else? Do we want to disallow flags and banners altogether?
I think one thing that has to be noted is that my observation has been some of the signs that are put out in the public right away.
Right, correct. And that is one of the things that Mr. Knight documented right here, that they can't be in the right of way, creating a public safety hazard. So do we know a specific size flag we would like? Do we want to not have flags? What do you guys think?
Well, one opinion I would have is that, you can allow things, but there has to be time limits on them, and there should be special things and things like that. Typically banners and
That's on
flags.
page 2.
That is on page 2? Where was that?
That's on page 2. Right, that's on number 15. I have some things that go on 15. But
Yeah, well, see, I think that ties in, if the size of the banner, you can do a percentage of the size of the property. I think
Correct.
that's something that we can always look at.
you're a
because-
sign experts.
Yeah, a small business, you don't want to put a banner that's this whole length, if the building's only 25 feet wide, you don't want to allow. So percentages always work for window graphics, for
Well,
the
I'm
actual.
talking specifically to the ones that Cricket had out there. They were blowing out in the state, right over the sidewalk and everything.
This is something that, it's tough. I hear what the board wants to do to try to help businesses do stuff, but I agree with you. When it's windy and they fly out there, it's a tough one. I don't know how, Mr. Pettit, if you think that, is the right of way an issue. I agree with you. Most signs typically are only allowed on property. These temporary signs, I agree with you. Say these flags have to be on the commercial property, and the right of way
seen, approved signs that were within the right of way.
So I think that would answer the question. We don't allow them out in that area between the curb and the sidewalk.
Yeah, I like the right of way is basically the building line.
Yeah, that's the problem, no.
Research on it.
And then I think you can't allow them there if there's no space, because I think it's a legitimate concern if you put them right out on the edge, and they're 12 foot high and they blow over.
When the Custer guy wants to have the street sales and all that kind of stuff, he puts them out in the right of way. I mean, if you're going to go out and buy a Christmas tree, I don't need a sign that he's selling a Christmas tree, if he's got 15-foot trees on the other side of the fence.
Well, I think a banner would be legitimate on, say, the fence or on the building, but I think right away is where I think the question is.
I don't think the borough can pass an ordinance to allow signs in a right of way.
No.
No.
No, we can't,
You might not
Tolerate that. It's another thing to say,
Yeah.
no, we can't pass anything that's.
So I think for code enforcement, we have to say that you're allowed these temporary flags and banners, but they have to be on your property. I think that would at least give the code enforcement official the ability to take it down if he felt that they were, a nuisance.
Well, jumping to number 15, because Mr. Capados.
Well, because of the size, that's
No,
the reason.
Mr. Capados tied into number 15, which reads, "The code should be amended to include a temporary sign permit for special activities such as a grand opening or a sale with restrictions on size, type, and duration." We had talked about in the meeting 30 days for a political sign. Okay, I'm just making sure, I don't know if everybody knows that. That's not in here, so I'm just trying to put it out there for everybody.
So maybe similar for these grand openings and things like that.
Yeah, and then we had, if there's a contractor out doing some work, that it's only there for the extent of the job. If there's a tree service or something coming down, they're allowed to put a temporary sign for the 3 days they're there, taking the gentleman or lady's tree down. If there's
The
a,
problem is, they keep wanting to renew these 30-day special permits.
We can limit how many times a year they can do it.
well, that's the thing, and again, I'm getting there.
I didn't read this whole thing.
No, this is my sticky note. And my sticky note down there is once a year, 30-day special activity. That was something that I agree with you, there should be a once a year,
Just
30-day. And well, Mr. Knight,
How about January and June?
yeah,
Do you adjust it?
Well, the issue is, are you saying they come in and get a zoning permit? Is that the idea, to come in and pay a permit?
Keith, why don't you
This is
come
a
on
way for
up?
us to keep track
Please.
of
They
it.
actually,
Come in and say, this is my 30 days,
yes, sir.
and then if you give them another 30, if they're allowed 2 a year.
Yeah.
Maybe
Right. 4 weeks, 3 weeks?
expand from when you get them, maybe not.
how about January and June?
Sure.
Maybe a year.
I will tell you a circumstance on Route 70 in Cherry Hill. Cherry Hill is asking for this.
Yeah.
Saying banners can only be up to
There you
30
go.
days. And what happened was, there was a pizza place on Route 70 that I sold him a banner. He put the banner up, and he got a notice of violation after that he left it up past 30 days. But it took him 30 days, it was a 30-day notice to take it down, so he left it up for another 30 days.
It's a freebie.
That's it. And then he still didn't take it down and and paid the fine. Next thing you know, the banner was up for a year before he was finally forced, and I think Mr. Knight would say that there is some issues on enforcement, things like that. We have to-
Absolutely.
This advertisement, you can pay the fine.
Paid the fine and left the sign up, and it was kind of an ironic thing, because the fine was minimal and things like that. But it is tough to, regulate this, but there has to be something.
It has to be defined
Yeah.
exactly what is permitted and what is not.
Well, like I said, I am a sign guy in Washington Township. They only allow signs for 2 weeks before a grand opening, 2 weeks after a grand opening. And the Sears was opening up on 42 down in Washington Township. And we had applied for a variance to put a sign facing the parking lot and a sign facing Route 42. And of course, they wanted 2 banners. So we needed to get a variance to put a banner up to say grand opening and then take it down. But in our application, we failed to say that we were asking for more than 1 banner. And we didn't have that all-encompassing and any and all other variances needed. And needless to say, had to say we were gonna just have one side up for 2 weeks, then move it to the other side of the building for 2 weeks to get it.
That's not the same sign.
It wasn't the same.
I think that they're doing this a little bit tonight. Trying to steer us to.
They used to have a lot of tires
But
over
we already passed merchandise. And I know there was.
No, we only passed merchandise because Mr. Capano jumped us ahead from 4 to 15.
Oh, I
I have a
Well,
question
why
on
don't you
that.
guys read it over and bring your.
Well, they
comments.
tie together, in my opinion.
Yes, Mr. Rockley.
When Nick had mentioned about the pizza shop, I mean, do we have any jurisdiction on what the fines can be? As one way to.
Well, you can recommend to council to pass by ordinance what you think the fine should be. I mean, I think what we should do is this board should develop, or even with Mr. Knight, develop an ordinance with all this stuff as a draft ordinance that comes to us, just like this one that went on for the energy. Like I said, I think it's great, but you're right, the group needs to take a look at it. And I think the same thing for the signs. And one thing nice about, ordinances, if we adopt something, it's read twice. If we find that it's a problem, we can amend it. You don't have to do it again. It's not, what this planning board does is set in stone. You approve that garage, it's never going away. You pass an ordinance for a $20 fine and it doesn't work, and Mr. Knight says it should be $200. We can amend that to $200.
Well, I think one thing that we talked about too, in respect to Mr. Knight's position, is authority having jurisdiction. That's one thing where Mr. Knight has the jurisdiction, and the way he explained things to us was he would like everything to be written. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but in this day and age, he wants all these to be written as if they're going to go to court. So that we have whatever backbone and statements we need to have clarification on exactly what we are allowing and not allowing. And I agree that's where some of these things, can get a little fuzzy and can be a little bit difficult for Mr. Knight to go out and try to do the compliance with.
I need to put another date in.
Hold on a second.
It's only 7:03.
Eastern Standard running time.
Okay.
So I guess if we go down like one by one, does anybody have any questions about the double-sided A-frame signs? And Mr. Knight, do you have any comments on that?
No, again, it's up to, obviously, the board. If you are in favor, again, that's what I was looking at. If you are in favor of allowing any type signs, either flags, banners, or A signs, if that was your inclination, then I would definitely recommend that there be restrictions on it.
As a sign guy, the typical size of an A-frame that you can buy right off the internet is about 2 foot by 3 foot. They're the little plastic ones that you see all over the place that people just buy.
Mhm.
We could just say that, because you're right. You can make an A-frame, you can take a 4 by 8 sheet of plywood, cut it in half, and now you've got this big 4 foot by 4 foot one. So the size is very important to put that on there. I mean, I would recommend maybe 2 by 3.
The people come in town and put up a mattress sale, and there's a sign every 6 feet.
That's
Those are the lawn signs.
That's Chris Mecca's job.
Well, I take care of those also, the Mattress City, and any of those portable plug-in type signs, they're prohibited now, and they have to be removed.
Permitted.
No, prohibited.
Prohibited.
No.
They have to be
Chris
removed.
told me he comes home on the way home at night and just takes them out.
I've also advised that maybe you can reinforce with our Public Works Department, anytime they see those signs when they're out, just to pull them out and dispose of them. If it becomes a repeat offender, like Mattress City, I contact them and speak to a manager and document who I spoke to, the fact that if it's reoccurring, they're going to wind up in court. If they
So
are
now, for
prohibited.
non-compliance, we have the authority to remove the sign, like to take it?
Well, that's a good question, and I guess I would go to Mr. Ryan on that to find out exactly.
Because I mean, that kind of,
Is
that
it,
settles the problem right away.
is it considered road debris like the Public Works Department would?
I mean,
And
of course, if an A-frame sign blew out onto the pike, we would have the authority to remove it and probably keep it in storage or something until that time when the owner came for it. But how far does that authority go as far as, if someone's continually non-compliant about our ordinance?
I think the best situation on something like that, Deborah, would be to have Keith cite it. As soon as you remove their property, even if it's against our ordinance, you know what's going to happen. somebody's gonna bring a lawsuit against them.
That's what I'm wondering about, that's why I
I
wanted
think
to
the better
get
thing
that.
is to cite them and tell them to remove, if it's not removed, they come in, they get fined. And
Well, that's within your purview, isn't it, Keith?
Well,
Abatement?
absolutely. The issue, and as you indicated, certainly that's the best course of action. But what you got is, let's say, for example, the Wawa doesn't bother with the Mattress City signs out. Who do I have to technically cite? The property owner, which would be Wawa. And of course, then they would be cited, and they would have to remove the signs, and that might be a good enforcement tool to the fact that you're putting the burden onto the property owner
Right.
to maintain the property. It's like anything else. I hear complaints all the time. I didn't throw a beer bottle on my lawn. I don't know, but it's your lawn. You know, you have to remove it. It's not fair. Well, if somebody threw a case of money on your lawn, I don't think it'd be an issue.
Right.
But this is what happens. If it's debris, you're responsible for it.
But if that were the case, and I'm just going way out of the box on this one, then Huawei would have legal right to remove those
Absolutely.
signs.
Or if it was a hazard, say it was in a sight triangle at a corner, then the police or the borough could remove it.
So if it's on public property, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right away?
If it's in a right of way.
If it's in a right of way.
Yeah, if it's in a right of way.
Because I know the DOT takes all those type of signs now.
With those.
Absolutely, yeah.
And again, getting back, that's why to refine these ordinances or redo them so that exactly what is our ability to remove these signs. Because say Public Works, if they're out there, they're hanging over the curb or they're trash, I tell them, just get rid of them. But if it's somebody obviously continually putting these signs up, then like in the case of like Mattress City or whatever, it's, they need to be cited, which I have done. So it's documented.
Well, that's pretty much already in place, so isn't it?
Correct.
We're okay with that one.
Correct.
It's not on here.
It's just a case of, like you say, removing the signs unauthorized because it is somebody's property.
To take it and throw it in the door.
On number two, you group flags and banners together. The flags that you see out there, they go into a frame and they can be easily removed. Banners tend to be tied up or screwed up. They would be hard to take down every single night and things like that.
Well, I guess why I put them in there is if that's what you're looking for, is again, and later on you'll see where I have to define the word sign. So it's clearly done by an attorney of what a sign is, because somebody will say, well, that's a flag. Oh, you said flag, but technically I call that a banner. Okay, let's find out what a flag, what a banner is, so that when you draft these and you enact these, I don't have an issue, because people read these. And as Mr. Kapadas will attest to, we had to send somebody a code who thoroughly went over the code to come in compliance, and they sometimes interpret what they're doing is in compliance.
Should we put definitions?
Yes, absolutely.
The DOC to this?
Whatever you're going to allow or not allow should be defined.
As
So
the size and everything.
as to the size, what a sign is, what a flag is, what a banner, and define everything. That's why I indicated in there that they are attached on pre-manufactured poles suitable for that purpose, so that somebody doesn't get a furring strip and tack a flag, because these things happen. It's like, where does it say that I have to? It says that I can have a flag on a pole. I consider that a pole. Well, it's a 2x4. Well, no. Show me, and the thing is, show me the code where it says, and that's what the response is.
Yeah, here you're right on Shepherd Avenue, it's open for discussion. The guy that owns the Pizza Parlor in that strip store, like Patton, on Eve Shane. Right, yeah, it's on in the back, over his door in the back of the shop, so they can see it from the football field.
Is that attached to the building?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, anything that it's attached to the building, that's the other issue, as I found out, is the ordinance now says portable signs. And to me, it's quite vague. It says anything that's not permanently anchored. And here's what people are doing. They take a banner with some masonry nails, drive it on the wall. Now it's not a portable sign anymore because it's anchored. That's what I had an attorney ask me.
Well, it looks like a banner that's probably riveted into the wall.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I went to-
Does our ordinance limit, define how many signs are allowed on a property? Does it say you're allowed one sign?
On permanent signs. But see, again, this is where you get into the issue. And like I said, I had an issue with an attorney in the court, and he's reading the ordinance, and he's absolutely correct. It says signs that are not permanently anchored. Well, what's the definition of permanently anchored? Driving the nails into a cinder block. Well, it is permanently anchored, yeah, but it's permanently anchored without permission. So this is where you get into the issue. Then you have to cite them for not getting a sign permit, because it's no longer a permanent sign or a flag or a banner. So
And
that's what
I
I'm
have to
saying.
sympathize with the guy, because with so many pizza parlors in town, I mean, competition's pretty key for that guy to make.
So that would kind of wrap that one up, though. I mean, if it wasn't a permanent sign, but then he fixes it, then, and he hasn't gone to get a sign permit, then it would be covered under sign permits. But it's really not a rigid sign that we normally would do something like that.
Exactly. It's sort of like, what I'm looking as a gray area. It's not a permanent sign, but by definition, it's not a portable sign or flag or banner, so that's what you have to define. So see, something like that to me, when somebody tacks up a sign, they're using the not permanently, not,
Something does not put you on the spot when you have a neighbor come to you and complain, what do you mean it's not permanent? They don't up there.
Well,
You have to make them take it.
exactly, but then the code says any sign, portable signs, any sign that's not permanently anchored, but it's being permanently anchored without prior approval or permission. So that's why I say this has to be cleaned up so that it's clear. You nail a flag or banner on the side of a building that isn't permitted, it's gotta come down. It has really nothing to do with the sign permit issue, because sign permits are for permanent signs.
I think it seems like the first order of business then is to set down exactly what we're talking about before we make any ordinance. Even in the case of the first item, properly weighted, what's properly weighted? Does it depend on the weight of the sign? Do we have like some kind of guidelines for, you know,
Sure, there has to
what
be,
they used to weigh it down with? Is it chain? Is it something, bricks?
well,
What is allowed, you know?
so something exactly, like in other words, each sign of a certain size shall be attached to a 5-pound weighted device. And what's the weighted device? Because there's the thing to it. Why I bring all this up, because experience with people, will say, weighted, what are you saying weighted? I put a bag of bricks under it, you know what I mean? And that's what people will do.
Or
And
back
it's-
of rice, you know, they're gonna say whatever they.
they're going to utilize whatever they want to unless you define it. Because their response is always to me, what can I do? And unless I have it here, I can always
Right.
suggest, like I say, show me where it says that I can't use this.
So are we, I guess, I mean, we're obviously not gonna get through this whole thing tonight, I'm not, that's not my intention. I'm just trying to have everyone kind of peruse it a little bit and get everyone's kind of, take the temperature on different things. Is everyone in agreement that if we were to allow double-sided A signs, that the maximum size we would like would be a 2x3?
I'll verify.
Okay.
And we're still waiting to find out, I guess, about whether the state permits any of this stuff on the right of way.
Well, it can't be in the right of way, so if you have, we can't, in other words, if you have a place that, if you have a business that doesn't have an area for a 2x3 sign, it's not gonna be in the right of way, you can't have one. I mean, we're not saying every business can have a 2x3 sign, we're saying if you have a business and, you know, say perhaps, you know, the, Mr. Albano's attorney's office, if he had something where he was having, you know, DUI, something for his attorney's office, he has a lot of lawn and stuff between the sidewalk and the front of his building. So I would think that that area of his lawn between the sidewalk and the front of his building, if he wanted to put a 2x3 sign there, I think he would, but if he wanted to put a 2x3 sign there, then he has a legal place to put it. He couldn't put it on the sidewalk, and he couldn't put it, you know, between the sidewalk and the road, because that's the right of way.
So in that instance, because he's set back, that, the right of way only goes as far as the sidewalk, the end of the sidewalk, right?
Not on the state.
Not on the state?
No, the state comes up with pretty points. State right away, I
Because I know
think
the ones that,
it's
you know, like
66
the,
feet.
That's accurate, isn't it?
you know, Marina.
I'm not sure of that.
That's right at the facade, right?
They wouldn't have one.
Okay.
I remember when the state come in here and we had signs about dead end, and it showed you real rude. It said dead end, do not enter. And the state gave us a little piece of paper that showed where the sign was. It said you have 30 days to remove these unauthorized signs, or we're coming in and taking them down and most of the barracks.
So where are we gonna put parking stalls? That's the thing.
I think you can get permission for that, because, you know, it's for the public good. Our public good.
So we have to actually go with the state to get.
I think you'd have to ask them if you could put the sign up. But it's only, it's no word in the sign like, one way do not enter,
It just says P with an arrow.
like an H on the
Because
blue
sometimes they
sign for
actually tell you
hospital.
parking, public parking, they have those nice, they're all like wooden signs, but they're painted.
Right, but I think they need state code for being state approved signs, parking sign and hospital sign. So I don't think they give you much of a headache there.
But we officially have to go before the state to request that? How's that work?
I'm not familiar.
You don't
No, I'm
know?
not familiar. You probably have to send a letter. If they're going to put it in their, on their right of way, get their permission. Yeah, I don't.
Well, I guess,
Who's,
well,
whose
well,
authority is that, the DOT or with,
I think mayor and council has to say they're gonna do it before we go to that step.
Absolutely.
I think we have to take a step
Getting me
forward.
the sign ordinance, I guess I haven't read it in a while. I understand Mr. Knight's concerns about most of the temporary stuff has been a big problem on a code enforcement issue. But after reading the ordinances just now, I didn't realize that we don't even address how many signs a person's allowed to have, permanent signs, pylon signs, monument signs, the size of those pylon signs, the size of those monument signs. If there's two frontages or one frontage.
Yeah,
you know.
very limited.
It's
Yeah,
very,
this is-
very limited.
This is our current sign
Yeah,
ordinance,
it's one
and
page.
it's a little over a page. Just our recommendations from about, 3 or 4 hours worth of meetings is 2 pages. And that's just recommendations. So that's why, I think that's why this has been avoided for a long time.
Indoor spot.
Yeah,
Well,
this
that's
is,
what I'm saying, it's been avoided for a long time because it's comprehensive, it's not something you can do in 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours. That's why I'm just trying to get through a little bit
And
tonight.
you would help the board if Dave and I, we can get you the existing sign ordinances like for Gloucester.
We have them, I have
Oh,
them.
well, you have,
Yeah.
and here's compare them.
I think the
well, I think we have a full-time zoning officer.
Yeah, here, just to give you an indication, this is Collinswood.
This is Barrington.
Sign.
Yeah, this is Barrington.
Or-
You've seen other ones.
Yeah, and ours is one page.
Ours is,
Yeah,
I got Barrington.
Go off your lord.
I mean, one of the things I think this board should consider right away is the fact that we're having new construction come into this town, and without telling the new construction, they should be told immediately. We should need to get this resolved immediately. The percentages are, well, the wall percentage is on there. I think we do say 20% of the facade, which is great, which is the front wall. But multiple occupancy buildings where you have more than one tenant, you have to address that. I'll give you an example, in Cherry Hill, they don't even allow it. You have to get variance if you want to put more than one name on a pylon sign, which is the road sign. I know Cherry Hill's excellent. I mean, they only allow 17 feet high. They only allow, has to be 10 feet off the right of way. You're allowed one sign per street frontage. There are other towns that don't allow it, even if you have one on the corner. They wouldn't allow you to put two
Yeah,
signs.
sometimes they have up and down the way, respect, they're not allowed to like that.
In Gloucester Township, the Walgreens that was built next door to me, when they built it, they had variances. They only had 3 variances for the building, but they had 12 variances for the signs. Because they were all sign variances, because they wanted to put 24 hours, all those different things. And Gloucester Township variance only said you're allowed one sign per wall. It was only allowed to be so big. I apologize that I've never really looked at this that much, because I don't, not a lot of new buildings opening up in Runnemede.
You're just sign guy.
Yeah, no, well, Runnemede doesn't have a lot of it, but, it's extremely low. It's extremely low.
And he likes it that way.
Yeah.
Son.
Well, what it does is it actually works both ways though. Because it's not permitted, it doesn't define what you're allowed to do.
Right.
So based on this ordinance, you're not even allowed to put a pylon sign up in the borough of Runnemede, correct?
for as a permanent sign.
As a permanent
Yeah.
sign. You can't put a pylon sign, you can't put a pylon. So when TD Bank was built many years ago, they must have gotten a variance to put the pylon sign up there. Because you're not allowed it based on this borough ordinance right now.
Yeah, it's
So-
part of the approval for the bank.
It's interesting.
Like that new thing up here, we go and approve the sign for that.
I think the draft ordinance is the best way to go, and then to edit that might be the better way. I think it's easier to edit a draft ordinance than it is to start from scratch.
And this
I
covers
think
all the
what
existing.
he's doing though is that you can't have it like this. So
No.
there's certain ones that go into certain things. I just have one question.
Yes, sir.
Some months ago, the business council had a committee for reviewing the sign ordinances.
Okay.
I was wondering if we were going to ask for their input.
I would absolutely love to hear their input. I mean, Debbie was actually going to go,
Yeah, the weather didn't cooperate.
yeah, she was going to go last month and just call on a few businesses and just see, what, you know, what their flavor of the day was as far as what they would like to see. You know, I mean, again, we're beholden to the people of the, you know, the business community, but we're also beholden to the public to try to keep them safe and also not have our town have to look at tattered signs that have been up for 3 years. And it's a very hard line to walk on this particular thing. I mean, it's tough. There's a lot of gray areas in our ordinance as it exists right now, in our master plan as it exists. This is a tough thing, and that's why it's kind of been under the rug for so long. And, you know, when we don't have if we don't have a criteria for Mr. Knight to adhere to, then it just makes his job that much harder. You know, he can't enforce what is not down on paper. So I think that's what we're really trying to do, is get something palatable to the town and to the business owners, that we can all live in harmony and make it work. Does anybody, Nick, samples of signs and flags, you're in the sign business, how difficult would it be to, next month, if you bring in a sample flag of what you think would be complementary to?
Yeah, I can do pictures.
Yeah.
I can bring pictures. I mean, most of the stuff that you're seeing out there is purchased online. People can go online, they can buy these A-frame signs, they can buy these lawn signs, they can buy the flags, what they call the teardrop flags, and things like that. Those are, I think, the biggest problem we're having, correct?
Correct.
Code enforcement issue.
Even though they're all covered under the sign ordinance, I think you've got two areas. One being obviously the permanent signs, and the other ones, what you're going to allow is temporary, or what they call portable signs, what your limitations are. I just made up, briefly two ideas here, and certainly it's up to the board how far you want to venture into this. But again, I would only stress again that anything that you're going to allow has to be clearly defined. Like you said, you can buy the A signs off the internet. If that's what you're going to allow, that's fine, because if you don't specify that, somebody's going to get two pieces of plywood, nail it together, and say, this is my A sign. And the response is going to be, where does it say in the code that, what is an A sign? Doesn't say I can't
Yeah,
put
that's
the
what I'm
plywood
saying.
together.
I think we should have clearly defined, 2x3 made a deposit, yada, yada, yada.
Pre-manufactured sign.
Pre-manufactured.
Use language like clearly manufactured for that purpose or something like that, you know?
Homemade sign.
I'm sure we can.
I thought the common
What are the
ordinance
signs
was,
that you're trying to permit? Like where? I mean, up till now, they've all been within the right of way? Or-
They've been sporadic all over, mostly, I guess, along the Black Horse Pike. Someone,
Temporary or permanent?
they're temporary. It's the plug-in like realtor signs, the lawn signs. They sell these
These
A signs. Yeah.
What are they being used for?
One specifically was for a restaurant with a menu on it, or just saying they're open.
put them on the side.
They put them on the side.
The A-frame signs tend to be popular in areas where people can walk. That's when you tend to see them. And I know what you're saying.
Within the right of way.
Right.
If
Yes.
someone goes out in front of their establishment, their restaurant, and drops one of those signs with their menu on it,
Mhm.
you can't permit that because it's within the right of way.
Right, that's why I say, right in the beginning, in a right of way is a totally
So
different.
you go to the next step. Mr. Albano and Mr. Raggy's want to put a sign in their front lawn area. Are they going to drop an A-frame out there? No, they're going to put a line.
Right. I was just using it as an example. They were asking who could on the Black Horse Pike, and that's one of the properties that just came to mind that has enough room. I don't know, like at the tanning salon across the way, whatever that used to be, they have enough room, but we,
I guess the reason I'm bringing that up is we do a lot of project development jobs, and we've never had a client that says, let's put an A-frame sign in front of our establishment. They get a permanent sign, whether it's a pylon sign if it's permitted, or we get a variance for it, or it's a monument sign.
I'm thinking the A-frame sign might be somebody like Reader's Water Ice. They have a bit of a parking lot there. I don't know if they would desire to put an A-frame sign. They have a pretty large, I guess, I don't know what you call it. It's kind of like before the sidewalk. I don't know if they would want to put an A-frame sign out there, summer hours or flavor of the day. I really don't, I don't know. I just, and again, if we decide we don't want to include A-frame signs, then we don't include A-frame signs. That's why we're having these meetings.
Not terrible signs, but you are right, you end up putting them where people are walking or driving, you're 100% right. You know, that's exactly what happens, they're gonna end up on side.
Well,
Should we be providing 6 alternatives, or?
I was, yeah,
What do
I'm
you
thinking
want to do?
the less we allow, the better, because then
That would
if it's
be-
not allowed, then
Right.
you can't get it. Then they would have to all, it would give us some
Mr.
uniformity.
Pettit just alluded to it. When they come, you either get this one against the wall or something like that.
And you always have the opportunity to come in front of the board and ask for relief.
Yeah, I like
And
that idea,
specify
because
exactly
then it
what-
simplifies it,
For
and
every
then
time.
it also, you know, you get the police and the officers day.
Yeah.
You're allowed to put your name up, it has to be on this sign. You're allowed to get it, the marquee thing, maybe, that you can change occasionally, but it has to be this size and it can only be. So, you know, if everybody's only allowed to do a very limited thing,
Right.
then that automatically, you know, unifies the look of these signs.
I think most of the problems we had a lot were with banners, correct?
Yeah,
Banners seem to be our biggest problem because we didn't.
Banners.
How long they could be out, how big they could be.
plug-in signs,
Yeah.
couple of the eighth,
Mr. Pettit is right, most towns frown on all this stuff. And most of what you see out there is illegal, which people put out. Very
And
few
you guys are
cities.
unique with, you know, with the pipe and all the
Unique
businesses
situation,
there. But then again, all those businesses are right up on the right of way line. So every sign that they're gonna put out is gonna be within a right of way.
Right.
So it's almost like a catch-22, where, you know, you wanna allow them to do something, but I don't know that you can.
Now, a banner's not bad, I mean, you can always hang a banner on a building, but like you say, you can't have it for too long, and it can't cover the whole property.
but the same question comes to mind, can you extend, you can't extend the banner over to the right of way,
Right.
you know?
No, but typically it would be a single
Yeah.
sign.
So it's only gonna be the people that have a, like recessed parking area or some frontage
Or
where
any kind
they're,
of facade, you typically.
that's back.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, even though whatever you put up there, I'm still gonna get, because I get the questions all the time, how come he can have it? Yeah, well, because they sit back, well, is it my fault that my building is, you know what I mean? So you are going, people, and I'm sure you'll find this hard to believe, but as soon as you do something, they ride around, you know?
I think we can draft something like that. Like I said, you can always amend it if it's not working.
Well, Keith, what do you think of Collinswood? Besides that it's wordy.
Well, it's quite lengthy, and I don't think, obviously, they've got some things they want to achieve. I don't think, you know, we should go from, like anything, you go from, New Jersey historically has a way of doing, they go from nothing to too much. I think, as Mr. Kapadas indicated, we can start with something,
Collinswood
get something,
is awful. It limits the type of material you can use. It only allows certain type of sign, the non-illuminated, decarved sign is all they allow. It's ridiculous. I mean, but once again, they have this very image that they're trying to project. And, you know, they're difficult. I mean, there's a lot of good ordinances out there, and I think we could put a bunch together, and, because Runnemede has a lot of differences, you know, Evesham Road's a lot different than the Black Horse Pike.
Yeah, that's a problem too, because we have county issues and state issues and, you know.
I'm talking about the signs of the properties and things like that.
Remember in the master plan, Leah Fury had a little packet to address our sign ordinance
Uh-huh.
in the master plan, or the facets of the sign ordinance relative to the master plan, but we didn't act on it because we were under the gun to have everything done by December.
Yeah, I mean, if there was something in the master plan that we could look at again, maybe we can start from that.
And I don't think it's in there.
I think it would be easier.
Recommendations from there.
In answer to your question, it would be easier to take the Collingswood ordinance, they should just put one page, these are the signs that are permitted.
Yeah, because I'm,
You
and
know,
I'm
and
thinking about you too.
If it's not on the sheet, it's not permitted.
You could spend the better
Uh,
part of.
oh, yeah, you could cut
24/7
through, yeah.
Just to writing up, you know.
Right, you want to get,
violations.
you want to, from my standpoint, you want to get to the point where it's definitive, but it is not overly bearing on me to where I got to go out there with a tape measure all the time and measure because everything,
I'm wondering
Yeah.
if simple is better, allow
Simple.
just a certain.
Simple but
type of sign.
definitive.
Anybody like a Walgreens or something that have, you know, for corporate reasons has to go beyond that, those parameters can come before the board and, you know, of course, we would consider that, you know, it's part of their branding to have a certain
Yeah.
look to the front of the facade or whatever. So I'm wondering if it isn't better to go on the simple end rather than adding stuff to it, it's allowed, is restricting it. can we grandfather the people in that are going beyond that? I mean, I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. You know, which way is better to go?
Well, even the issue with grandfathering, you know, once somebody takes the sign down, they should be forced to conform. You know, that should be the general consensus with everything, you know. I mean, maybe they come in, like I said, get a variance. But the reason we change an ordinance like this is because we're wanting to go in a certain direction. And do you agree, Mr. Pettit, is that what you found?
Changing venue or ownership should,
Well, it's not usually, you know, is that the trigger? It's usually when they touch the
No, I think
structure.
if you modify the sign, or like you said, if you take it down, you've lost your grandfather clause. But if you have an existing sign, you know, you can't really, I don't think you can pass an ordinance and say, yeah, you gotta take that down.
Well, you know, well, that's why I said,
It's pre-existing.
grandfather these
You
people.
could, but I think it would be, people would get very upset.
Well, you know what?
It has happened.
It's a thing to do.
You have to.
Sure, why not?
To be in this town, as well, like that.
Yeah.
You're willing to make
You're
One more
running a
right.
business, absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
All right, so I guess, you know, we can beat that to death, and I just want to get everybody's opinion. You guys, we can think about it, and, you know, if you want to, between this meeting and next meeting, you know, I've been personally paying attention to when I go into different towns, trying to see what I like, what I don't like. But I think we could just maybe jump right to things that I think are pretty vanilla in that number 5, the code should be amended to specifically identify prohibited devices such as streamers and non-holiday lighting. So that's pretty much, is everyone in agreement with that? Okay, so Keith, number 5 is okay, we like that one. The code should be amended, number 6, the code should be amended to place restrictions on outdoor display of merchandise, which should be displayed only during operating hours. And we've also talked about, one of our meetings, we need regulation on storage of goods. In other words, we don't want them to be storing goods outside, you know. Yes, sir.
And I know Keith has handled this before. The gentleman on Columbia Road
With the chairs.
with the chairs.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Where does he fall out? Is that merchandise or is it?
I think it is.
Well-
Storage.
Again, everything, when you define this and it goes through the attorneys, if that meets the criteria for outdoor storage of merchandise, because that was always the gray area. Is it a portable sign? It didn't meet the definition of a portable sign. It essentially is merchandise, but he turned it into a sign. I would view it as merchandise being displayed, and once this is, if you have something in force where it tells you about merchandise, then you
Should
would.
stuff just be prohibited, you should be able to.
Well, again, that's up to the board. If you don't want anything out of it, that makes it real easy for me. First of all, my own personal opinion, I like it the way it is, because, you know, you can eliminate a lot of stuff. My own personal opinion, I drive down Runnemede, and quite frankly, I'm proud of what we have here. No signs, no banners, no displays. Go in other towns and you start seeing this stuff hanging, it aesthetically detracts from the town. So, and that's why, you know, when I see something, somebody gets written up, get the sign down, but, you know, we're into possibly changing it again, that's up to your opinion. But that's my opinions on it. So if you want to limit it, case in point, as Mr. Kapadas just indicated, we had a thrift store
Right.
that we don't want to see failing businesses, but there was a fortunate aspect of it, that once they closed up, they were loading a parking space up, opening the store, and every day taking a parking space, loading it with goods and merchandise
Right
out
next
there
to
all
Pat's
day.
Pizzeria.
They were Pat's was.
Pat's Pizzeria.
And of course, I drive by, and, you know, my first inclination, certainly, I want to write them up, but how do I write them up? I don't have the
So we don't have
enforcement.
an ordinance.
I don't have the enforcement tools there, because again, as Mr. Beatrice indicated, with the chairs out there, we're back to the same thing. I can't write the guy for chairs, and somebody sees, they take it one step further. They load a parking space up. Now we have a thrift store here that's putting merchandise out there today. So at least fortunately, it's during operating hours.
Well, this one, number 6, could easily be done by borough ordinance very quickly. We could do something as early as April, prohibit the outside merchandise, that would have to go through the planning board at all.
Yeah, what do you think, Nick, about that?
I think prohibited, because like you said, a parking space, you know,
But
that's
that's
not a parking
not
space.
really a planning process.
There was a commode out there next to Pat's Beach, right, my hand to God.
Yeah.
They had a commode out there.
Out for the thrift store.
Yes.
But again, I was powerless.
Came into town, you looked to your right, and it was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Well, that's why I say, you have to view it from my perspective. I go down and I'm looking for signs, I'm looking to keep, you know, the pike clean, and then I see this, and a commode and everything out there, and then I get calls, and I have to answer to people. And what justification, okay, I had a banner down, I took it down, and now they got a commode out there. And they've got a hobby horse, and you can see, in their mind, they're correct. It's not beautifying the town, but there's nothing against it.
And there's no parity.
And again, in defense of the people that did, I would say, comply with that, even though there's no compliance necessary. Actually, I think it was for rental, and that's what really scared me. So that I was concerned that people...
Before you're ready.
Yeah, well, remember the 10-cent pay toilets? But anyway, the Viking furniture, I mean, very nice building, well-maintained building. But he put the stools out there,
You never told them that.
arranged.
He's been here for 35 years.
What's that?
Viking.
Yes,
He knows he didn't do it 35 years ago, he should be doing it today.
but again, you know, he was doing it, there was nothing to prohibit it, but again, his wasn't a major concern. But, you know, you take it, like he says, one step further. The guy puts the chairs out, at least Viking, they took him in. They kept it neat, they kept it orderly, okay? It's not a problem. The chair guy, he starts, the thrift store starts. Now we got the other thrift store, and it's coming out the front, but I have to cite it, as you're well aware, if it goes to court. And there's nothing,
I think this is easy to do as a council action, to prohibit it, you know, merchandise outside.
So are we all in agreement to that before we ask Mr. Kapadas to recommend to council that we take care of number 6 through mayor and council?
Yeah, I don't think it'll make a big difference to the business itself. People know where, you know, the parcels are, and the tile place, you know, it's a tile place, you know.
Operating hours.
If we're gonna address and allow them to put maybe a banner up here or there, I think that might help them out, you know, so that's the give and take a little bit, you know, if we.
as opposed to the merchandise,
Yeah, keep the merchandise off and maybe have a better defined sign, ordinance.
And just as a side note to that, if you have any consideration that you're going to do merchandise, again, from my perspective, for enforcement, it would have to be so definitive, you know?
Would
How
you like
much,
to draft
how much
something?
square feet of merchandise you
Yeah, we're
can...
not,
None.
no.
That's the easiest way, because,
I like none.
exactly, because they will stretch it to, they'll want to know
Right.
exactly how much, and then again, I'm back into an enforcement
Right.
problem, where I'm out there measuring the square feet, because somebody's complained. I went by there last night, and he had 15 square feet of outdoor display, and you told me no more than 15, and I kept mine, and now he's up to, because they'll throw another chair in.
You're busy enough with what you have. to
Well,
do.
that's what I mean, you just don't want to get into the point where, and this is where unfortunately it delves into that area where,
Mr. Rowan, do we have to ask you to draft a letter compelling mayor and council or anything?
Oh, no, they can initiate themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'll email, I think I'll work with Mr. Knight, we'll get something back from the planning board.
All right.
Because I think some of the things that came into my mind, we were just talking about it, we're saying no merchandise, what if the person says, it's not merchandise, I'm not selling it? You're right, my thoughts started to work, we have to really talk
Sure.
about the sidewalk, that we're not obstructing the sidewalks and, you know, littering the front
You
yards.
can say outdoor display or storage of materials.
Yeah,
And whether, it's any.
and all encompassing something.
Well, I think that's wonderful. We got number 6 handled. Number 7 is the code should be amended to prohibit displaying signs on parked vehicles or trailers. Now, we all know in this day and age of vehicle wraps and things of that nature, there's not much we're going to do about that. If someone wraps their vehicle in Geico insurance and parks it out in front of their
I think it has to
Geico.
be a legitimate parking spot.
not only the parking spot, I know what you're talking about. I'm not talking about the sign lettering on vehicles.
Right.
I'm talking about, once again,
Leaving a sign.
the cricket,
Yeah,
the cricket store takes a van and puts a banner on with duct tape,
right.
and puts the duct tape and puts the sign on there. So again, these are the type of things. A properly lettered vehicle, you're not gonna stop that. And
Registered.
then-
That box truck on the bar, third effective.
As long as it's registered, it's in a parking spot. it's-
Right, and it has like, it's properly lettered.
Right.
You can't do anything because that's under the Department of Transportation, a
Right.
vehicle, and I have no jurisdiction in there. But I'm talking about when somebody tapes something like the cricket store and with duct tape and turns the vehicle sideways, they're trying to circumvent the code.
Correct.
And that's what I'm saying, they will try everything. That's why I keep stressing definitive regulations.
So is everybody in agreement with number 7, that we're going to move forward with that one, that the code should be amended to prohibit displaying signs on parked vehicles or trailers? Right, that's,
Well, you got some people that, but Beaverbrook members, right?
That's an
Yeah,
example,
well,
that's not
They
a
have all
parking
kinds of trucks, but their trucks are way in the back most of the time. Now, there's a truck out there with their name on the sign, but it's way in the back. There should be allowed to park that.
Well, exactly, there's another issue in which has, and Beaverbrook is the one, with the box truck out there, which is not, to my knowledge, registered and being utilized as a sign. It's no longer
And
a,
Janettis has a box truck on their lot.
right, but that's other than the vandalized,
Yeah.
it was vandalized, it was registered, but Beaverbrook is different. The vehicle has no tags on it, and it's being utilized as a sign.
I know what we're trying to do. I think I know what we're trying to
The
do.
intent.
But it seems to me that we're getting involved in a lot of things that we shouldn't be. Issue between construction code official and code enforcement officer of the borough. Why are we telling them that we think that the display signs on parked vehicles are trailer?
well, we were,
Why does he have to come to us to get our dollars for this going? Means we got a new boat now. And, you understand? I'm sitting here and I'm wondering why.
Well, I think some of this comes off of the land use ordinance, correct?
yeah, we were asked to do
It's
this.
like a recommendation, Tony. It's not required, but in other words, typically, if the borough council generated this themselves, they would send it for review to the planning and zoning board. Okay, for their comment and recommendations.
I understand, but most of this that we're, to me anyway, most of this that we're reviewing, we're saying that is this what we think you want?
Right.
Wasn't that what the master plan was, what this board thought?
Yeah, because-
It laid it all out?
Yeah, it was, so to speak, yeah.
Here's what we have on the master plan, Tony,
But
on the signage.
I understand, I know where you're coming from.
Okay.
I know where you're coming from. That's why I said, I think I know what we're trying to do here.
Yes.
Looks to me, at this particular point, where we're getting too nitty gritty.
Well, I don't know
In other
that,
words, if we're saying it should be this, we suggest that you do this, we make that suggestion, let them determine what.
well, I think what we're doing here really is trying to help Keith.
We want to
Keith
have the
needs,
recommendations.
yeah, we need to make recommendations, because Keith needs us and the borough and mayor and council to all come together and give him the tools that he needs to do his job better. And Keith came,
We want to, still want to have them included in
I
it.
don't dispute that at all.
and so, I mean, they asked us to look at this, and that's what we're doing.
I know, but what we're looking at are Keith's suggestions.
Well, they're Keith's suggestions from 2 meetings we had together with our subcommittee.
Well, that's what's throwing me off.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this letter from Keith.
Well, it is, but we had 2 meetings, and these are my notes, and these are my notes.
Now, we had 3 sample ordinances that we looked at.
Yeah, we put quite a bit of time into this, and we're trying to, and because Keith has to do the enforcement, it was my
It's just a
suggestion.
legal term, it wasn't arbitrary and capricious.
Yeah, so what we did was we asked, because Keith has to be the one enforcing it, we asked Keith to go ahead and, from our meetings, put pen to paper and, try to give us a concise thing that he has concerns with. And I think we've addressed a couple of them this evening. So number 7, we're all okay with, right? Okay. And we're only going to be about another 5 minutes. I know we've gotten through half of this. The code should be amended to restrict interior door or window signs to allow a certain percentage of coverage. One concern that came up during our meetings was we don't want any tobacco signs in the windows of like the convenience stores.
Well, I think the percentage is a good idea. Did you
Right.
guys come up with a percentage? I don't know about the actual content. You know, that makes it a little bit tougher.
I thought we already had percentage, don't we already have
We have a percentage on facade signs.
No, nothing, the issue is that people put interior signs and I get complaints on it and there's
Like the
no,
liquor store.
they paste them all inside, you can't even see the glass after a while. It's all signage now,
We have something now limiting.
not inside the windows. And that's a problem.
Typically 25%, 35%.
I thought we already had something on the books.
No,
right? I thought
Not, nothing for interior signs.
Yeah.
And that's the issue.
Can't we just say that,
That's the 25, did you have an example?
this, where it doesn't say on the outside side of the building?
Well, you can,
Eliminate outside.
well, again, you can, and currently, that's the way it is. But I'm just addressing this is something that's been brought to me on several occasions. And, people say, well, why don't you do something about the signs posted inside? Because there's nothing to prohibit it inside the
20%, is that
windows.
something you've heard, John?
For interiors?
Yeah, what percentage on the way, 20, 20?
I had gone through a few, and I thought 20 was the median.
Something in there is, yeah.
That's not a good recommendation?
Yes, I think 20%.
Okay,
Well, that's what it's going
The
to
liquor store down there, they got a sign.
they got,
Too much.
they got 120.
well, that's it. Because there's no regulation, again, when you have no,
That's a sign, right?
when you have no regulation, they're going to do what they want to do.
Number
Are
9,
you gonna require people to get a permit to put those signs on the interior?
I wouldn't think so, would you?
Housekeeping and go measure the window, calculate 20%?
I have it down here further for, if you're going to do flags and banners.
Right,
and-
flag and banners, we want to do.
And John's quite right, I mean, really, you would require a permit, even if it's nominal. So this way, at least they're putting, so that they meet it, and then when they fail to comply, I have to, this is what you submitted with your permit.
20%
That
with the
you were
permit.
going to put, and now, because people always have selective amnesia.
Okay,
Did I say that? I was going to put that
that's
in?
fair enough.
Really?
Yes.
This way you have the paper, here's the one you signed on this date. Yeah.
And I guess the last one we'll look over tonight is number 9. The code should have a provision on signs for permitted garage sales specifying time limit, placement, and size. I was thinking that would kind of fall under our,
So yard sales and garage sales.
yeah.
Right, the borough currently requires a permit for a yard sale. You can have 2 a year with a 6-month period, but it should also be amended to say what you can do about the signs. So you don't have the signs, and we've all seen
Telephone
on utility poles, advertising a garage sale from 3 years ago, because they don't take them down.
Just let you know, we may be amending that garage sale ordinance. It's been a problem for the council for a few years. One of the big issues is we require everybody to let us know 2 weeks before the garage sale, and typically people don't plan garage sales that well. And so one of the suggestions was the permit, I think it's $10, is that what it is? Jim?
$5, I think it is.
$5. And the idea is that the closer you get to the date of your garage sale, you would just pay a higher fee. And the reason for the fee in the first place was just to monitor it, so that you're not constantly having it every week or every day. You're never removing, the biggest problem is people weren't removing their items after they were having a garage sale. So this way we can at least keep track of it in some sense, and it was also to notify the police. So maybe $5 if you do 2 weeks, but if you do it the day before, you might pay $25 or even a higher amount. Because just so we keep track of it and things like that. But I think it was, the residents were saying it was very inconvenient for them to remember 2 weeks at a time, which is,
Yeah.
I know, it doesn't seem like a lot, but I've definitely got several calls about it. So we're gonna look into that.
And again, just to tie in
And then
signage
and then
into
put a
that,
sign.
yeah, so that so there's a condition of their permit, they know what they can do with a sign.
Yes.
So that, when they go up, when they go down, where they can go. Same thing, continual violators don't renew their permit,
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to handle that under mayor and council as well, and we're going to attach that to the permit for the said garage sale, is that correct?
I think we can add that to the garage.
Into the garage sale, you're right, so that it's right in
I
there.
think Keith and I can handle it through the council.
Yeah, so that it's just amended there so that they know.
Well, I appreciate everyone staying after school this evening, and I think we made progress and I appreciate your input very much. Yes, sir?
Yeah, Kenny, I was just gonna say, I guess this should have been a new business. I was contacted by Sam Raganese regarding the Gardner Funeral Home.
Yes.
A couple of years ago, he had gotten a site plan approval. He sent me, and I believe he sent John, and he had a cover letter to you too, he wanted to come in for administrative amendments.
See you next month?
Typically, what he wants to do, he doesn't want to do the whole project all at once because of economics. I guess he couldn't get the financing to do everything, and he just wanted to construct one portion. So I told Sam that we would entertain an administrative amendment if he got the information to John. John wouldn't need to do a review letter because the project's been already approved. And I said, Sam, the board would want you to come in and explain exactly.
It's a very comprehensive project.
Yeah, yeah.
It's coming out the back, it's
Right.
changing, it's a lot.
Knock the buildings down.
It's- I'm sorry?
Not
I thought we were
anymore.
doing
Yeah.
that
Yes.
next month.
In addition to the main building.
Next month, yeah. So I was just gonna ask if I could, I tried to get him on the agenda, but it was, June, we just got the agenda completed, and she didn't have the paperwork from Sam. So I said, Sam, we can't get you on in March, we'll have to put you on in April.
Okay.
But I just wanted to get permission from you to do that, so I can call him and say,
So,
what for April.
Sam's gonna come in by himself with just site plan and show us the changes, is that what you're saying?
John, is it okay for Sam just, or should we have somebody from Gardner?
I mean, I have the plans with me this evening. Basically, what they want to do is not put the addition on the main building.
Okay,
They still want to build that new garage.
yep.
And.
Taking that house down, right, taking the house down, all the way back, okay?
That's an outlet.
And this was already approved?
Yes.
Yeah, but I guess if he
But the clock's
couldn't
ticking.
get, there might have been economic issues where he couldn't do it all at once.
Yeah, he told me.
So we would only be approving to start part of it, is that what you're
Why
saying?
don't you just do
We're
a
going to allow him to do it in
program
phases.
Yeah.
for that over?
So I guess
So 2 years.
what happens then, he doesn't have to,
If it's 2 years,
he does it in
it's
phases, he doesn't have
You
to
can get
put
extension.
the same
Fine.
surety bonding requirements that would be for the whole thing.
Is that what?
Yeah, he can't go to the borough engineer and get a reduced bond because the approved plans that have been signed by everybody show everything else.
Big,
They're not looking to make the changes to the driveway configuration on 168 or on the side street. It's much more limited than what was approved. So I think Dave's right, they should be able to, and if it's same, it's fine. I don't think we need to swear anybody in.
Yeah, as long as the board's okay.
This is all we want to do.
I think you should probably ask him for an extension on his time permit too. Whatever you make, if we gave him preliminary, right, or give him preliminary.
Yeah, that was before,
We
yeah.
gave preliminary and final, so he
How many years,
so
so
he's
he gets,
extension on the time, I think.
well, maybe we can talk about that when he comes in.
because he might want to do phase 2 a year
Yeah,
from now.
yeah.
He didn't want, he went to a lot of expense, and he had those,
That's what Sam
that
was
plan
telling
done.
me, yeah.
It was very comprehensive, it was very well done. And I'd hate to see him have to go through that expense again to come back because his time limit
Right.
expired.
Yeah, he wouldn't be waiving, I guess, what was approved, I mean, the time limits, he will have to address that.
Yes.
He just wants to do it in phases, and,
Makes sense.
because I guess,
Sure.
yes.
I think the plan itself is conducive to that, the way, you know, he was going to either do the building, then he was going to do different things.
It doesn't make any difference where he puts the
No.
building, because he's got enough,
Right.
fire department.
Well, I'll just tell him that if, with your permission, and if June can put him on the April agenda, I'll just tell Sam,
That'd be great.
if he just wants to come in, that should please the board, I mean, unless you
Okay,
want.
so for April 10th, we're going to put Mr. Raganese
I'll
on.
give him a call, and then
Okay.
I'll notify him.
I
Yes, sir.
don't think they're looking to phase the project. They're looking to reduce the project.
Oh, is that what they're, okay.
When I spoke to Sam, he said, no, they're never going to do that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh,
That's what
okay.
I
They
had.
can't get
didn't
the
know that.
finances. They're looking to just drastically scale back what they want to use.
Well, it's not going to cost him anything to extend it. He changes his mind. I don't know.
No, but
I
the
guess
plans
it-
that were submitted don't even show the.
Doesn't
addition.
put
It's
bigger
not like-
price group.
Usually, if you phase it, you put a line around and say, this is phase 1.
Right.
This is phase 2. This is just,
Yeah, the circuit plan was okay, and he's not gonna change any signs, that's for sure.
Well, we're good.
All right, I'll give him a call.
All right, one more thing. How's Mr. Ober doing?
Mr. Herbert, yesterday went down to Moss, I'm sorry, to rehab room run by Virtua, attached to the Virtua Berlin Center. He did have, he didn't respond well to the needle that they gave him, and he had two very light screws. But they seem to have everything under control now. He's in rehab. I tried to call him, but each time I called, he was out on test or whatever. But I'm going to go see him tomorrow.
Well, please send him our best, he's in our prayers. How's Mr. Klein?
He is home, from what I understand. He's okay. I haven't heard as much other than he's doing well.
Will he be back?
He will not be back, I don't believe, for about, 5 to 6 weeks.
Perhaps,
So what, did he have his hip done? Is that correct?
Yeah,
we'll see him next month.
yes.
I thought it was his ankle bothering him all this time.
No, this is it.
Yeah.
And last but by all means not least, how is Mayor Calvadas?
She's doing well.
She's okay?
We'll continue our program. I think she's getting to the end of the
Yeah.
program.
Well, let's all keep our fellow members in our prayers, and with that, the motion to adjourn. Mr. Ockley and Mr. Dickinson, thank you all very much. Good week.